You don't always have to buy fancy hardware for making a box. Now, this little box is one of my current favorites. It grew out of the work I do with kids at Clear Spring School, and it's based on the concept of the Jacob's ladder, just interlocking pieces of leather. And the design of the lid with a little cutout here provides a positive stop when the box is open so that it doesn't fall all the way back, and it's just the tension of the leather that holds it like that. If you're going to make a leather hinge, you actually have to start before the box is assembled. This is the box with a rabbited joint that was done for the purpose of demonstrating this hinge. I'm going to make a very simple joint, very strong, very long-lasting. It's a simple rabbet joint. I don't have to really do anything to this piece to make it work. I just simply have to cut a rabbet out of here. I'm going to use this piece first of all, though, to do my setup. You see, I can see exactly where that saw blade is going to cut, and I know the exact thickness of my stock, so I can even do this without measuring. Now, the other thing I need to do is set up the height of the cut. I don't want to cut through the full thickness of it. I want to leave about 1/8 of an inch, or about that much. Begin by making a cut using the sled and the stop block on each end of my front and back. I have a little bit of material to sand off on that edge. So now I'm going to remove the sled, and I'm going to lower the blade quite a ways down. Now, observing with the fence in place, I can see where the saw is going to cut. Now, that's not a real fancy joint. There are lots of things, though, that you can do to make it more attractive. For instance, this little box here, I've taken wooden dowels and drilled through and glued them in place, and so they actually lock the parts together, which makes a very strong, lasting joint. One of the major advantages about this is that your joint only has to take place on your front and back parts. It's very easy to cut a dado in the bottom for a bottom to fit. If you want to hide some of the impact of this end grain, then you just lightly chamfer all of this, and then you won't see quite as much end grain in place on the end of the box. So this will be the back of the box, and I'm going to take a little piece of rough leather scrap and make a cut in there to begin forming the leather hinge. Okay. Now, the purpose of this cut here, this will be the width of the cut that I make at the back of the lid, similar to this, only smaller and centered. So before I make the lid, I take my glue gun and spread some glue on here and lay this in position. And I'm leaving about 1/2 of an inch here for the fitting over the lid. So the next thing I'll do is I'll take some tacks. And so you remember, this all has to be done prior to assembly, because on a box this size, there's just no way in the world you'd be able to apply these tacks on the inside of the box. The next step is to assemble the box, and then you take your lid and you place it on the back so that you can see exactly where your leather hinge will line up. And you make a series of saw cuts to a depth of 1/4 inch, so that it has a 1/4 inch overhang at the back. And then the next thing I will need to do is just simply begin cutting the other parts and fitting the leather parts to complete the hinge. So I'm going to hot melt glue one piece there and the other piece there. Now I'm going to start applying some tacks. Okay, so now I'm going to check and see how it looks on the box itself. So I'm just going to take my scissors and make a couple cuts from right there. I'm going to spread some glue and get it on quickly, pull everything tight, and so at this point I can start outlining with tacks. Okay, so I've got the tacks on the top, and now I want these strips of leather to be cut and fitted. I put them in the back along this edge. Okay, I'm going to put 2 more in there, and then I have a little bit of cleanup of glue. As a final finishing touch, I'll take some of the same leather and I'll make little pads to go on the front so that when the box is closed, there'll be a uniform space all the way around it.